Hi, my name is Kara Sevens, and today I'm going to be talking about vocal tone in speeches and why communication coaches need to understand the concept to be able to understand the student context, to be able to apply exercises that will be beneficial for their lifelong communication, careers, and life, and obligations, and everything they're going to be communicating for. And so we're first going to start by defining a few things like tone, which is actually the way that people use their vocal and sinus cavities to actually use words and how they present themselves that way with the speech language. And pronunciation goes into that, which is the ability to use correct stress, intonation, and rhythm of words in the spoken language, which goes along with fluctuation, which is actually about the stress and rhythm that you put on words to change the value of words in speaking, in conversations, and in speeches. And then articulation is where it gets a little technical. And so the articulation is a 4-step in speech production. The first being breathing, which is really the most important, and I'll get on that in a little bit. The second is phonation, which is actually where the vocal folds have air forced through them to cause vibrations. And that'll be here in the larynx, or here on the diagram that I have included on your handout, and also here on the PowerPoint that you can refer to. And so the third is resonation, which is where the sinus and vocal cavities are used to amplify the sound caused by the air and the vibrations, and all working together to next have articulation, which is using the tongue, the teeth, and the lips to modify that sound in recognizable patterns. And so you see that in the diagram there's a lot going on here in the neck and the face and the chest area, which we'll get into, but know that these are all very important in creating speech language and articulating and being good speakers. And so they all work hand in hand, and they're all needed. And so context. So why do we need to know this? When we're talking about anxiety and speaking in public stress, they first is usually, I don't want people looking at me, but one of the most common answers is the fact that people don't want to stutter in front of others. They're really scared that they don't have the ability to speak in front of others clearly and efficiently from their brain to their mouth, and sometimes they trip over their words, and all of a sudden everything is ruined. And so it's our job to not only work on their content in their speeches, but it's also to help them address that fear and address that, to be able to give them skills that they can apply and actually progress their speech language and communication. And so we have to understand their client fears when they walk in, and know that they're not just getting scared when they're thinking of, I have to present this in front of this coach I don't know. That fear was already in them and probably has already been experienced for them, and we have a lot of context to work with in overcoming that fear. So we have to know that even the exercises we may include in our sessions in 45 minutes may not be mastered in that time. So we need to teach it well so that they are able to go home and practice on their own to become better communicators on their own and build that up through experience in their next classes and in their careers, in their home, wherever they may be communicating. And so we need to know how to address them. And so speech delivery is probably the most needed part, but not the most importantly stressed by communication coaches. We always stress about content, making sure that informative speeches are informative, not persuasive. But the delivery is probably the most important part, because you can do all the preparation, all the practicing, but if you don't understand how to deliver the speech with passion or with drive that keeps the audience focused on you, then you won't have any success in delivering your information. And so that's why we're just addressing that today. And so next we're going to talk a little bit more about the physical implications of the stress and tension on the body. Usually people will say that they're stressed out, and we feel it more mentally than actually physically, but stress has a very big, it affects our bodies very intensely in ways that we don't really recognize, because we chalk it out to being normal commonalities when, I'm going through college, I'm just tired all the time, I'm stressed about this test, I just have a headache. We don't chalk it up to the fact that our stress is actually causing problems in our bodies. And so the tension and stress for speaking is actually held in the shoulders and chest region and through the neck. And so you remember that I said the most important part of speaking, anatomy-wise, is in the neck and the chest. And so if they're clutching their whole chest and all the stress is held down on their shoulders, they're not going to be able to start well because they can't get enough air into their diaphragm where they store all their air, and they won't be able to start off well. And so that's really important to open that up and calm them down, and especially focus on their breathing, because if they can't get a breath in, they're not going to be able to speak well. They'll all of a sudden be more scared because they're running out of air, they can't get a breath in, and it just causes a lot more issues. And so here I have a diagram which actually shows more of the vocal cord and the larynx and the vocal folds that are in vibration when you're speaking, and when the air goes through that, which is the second step of speech production. And so a few things that we can do is a fun thing that I actually experienced in choir when I was in high school is starting warm-ups with them. And so if they're coming in specifically to practice their speech with you, you can automatically start off right off the bat. If they are scared, if you can tell they're a little anxious to start off with you, you can have a fun warm-up that'll actually make them laugh, get a little bit of the stress out of their shoulders and tension relieved, so that they're able to present well, and they'll actually have more confidence leaving the appointment to be able to practice better on their own and then present later. And so with this, maybe the first time they're actually practicing their speech, we want to start them off on a confident note so that they're able to do that on their own, because if they feel like inadequate when they walk out from here and feel like they can't do it on their own, they're not going to practice, and the whole speech is going to be a disaster, and all of a sudden their vision of communicating is skewed because of their personal failure is what's going to happen in their mind. And so a few practices I included on your handout, and you can do them with me. I'm going to try to get through them, but this is one is a tongue twister that I got through a speech pathology clinic from Ohio State University, and they actually practice it with their clients. And tongue twisters are interesting because they can actually do specific ones per letter, and so this one specifically for the letter T. And so I'm going to get through it. If I mess up, it happens. And so a tree toad loved a she toad who lived up in a tree. He was a two-toed tree toad with a three-toed toad was she. The two-toed tree toad tried to win the three-toed she toad's heart, for the two-toed tree toad loved the ground that the three-toed tree toad trod. But the two-toed tree toad tried in vain. He couldn't please her whim. From her tree-toed bower with her three-toed power, the she-toad vetoed him. So it's a little rough, but you can practice with your clients and start off with them going slowly and working at faster pace. And if they trip over it, you laugh with them, practice with them, do it in front of them so they show that we're human too, and that tripping over our words is a lot more normal than what they think, because when they experience it, it feels a lot more pinpointed and highlighted on themselves, so that it puts a lot more pressure on them. And so we want to take that pressure off in the time that we have with them. And another one is actually used on Broadway. Is an opera excerpt from The Pirates of Penzance. It doesn't make a lot of sense, I think. It may be spoken in Old English or old-time language, but it is a accumulation of different words that are really hard to get into, not trip over. And so I feel like it's set up against you, but practicing this with your clients will also be something fun and a great icebreaker for them to feel more comfortable in practicing in front of you. And so it's The Pirates of Penzance. It says, I am the very pattern of a modern major general. I have information vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England, and I quote the fights historical, from Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical. I'm very well acquainted, too, with matters mathematical. I understand equations, both simple and quadratical. About binomial theorem, I am teeming with a lot of news, with many cheerful facts about the square of the hypotenuse. I'm very good at integral and differential calculus. I know the scientific names of beings and animalculous. In short, in matters vegetable, animal, and mineral, I'm the very model of a modern major general. So it's hard, and obviously tripped over animalculous, which is a new word for me, but I also know a technique that you can show students who have a word that they're worried about and stressed about and may feel like they may trip over, and will help them feel more comfortable in speaking them. And so that goes into this, which is phonetic spelling. And so people often use flashcards for their presentations. And so what they can do if they have a specific word they're actually worried about tripping over, maybe a name or a place that they have to include in a formative speech or persuasive speech, And so it actually spells it out by the way it's supposed to be pronounced. TV anchors actually use this. So this chart is from the Free Dictionary, but it also was used on CNN where it was talking about the TV anchor training. And so onomatopoeia is one on the chart. And so you can see that it's spelled like AHNUHMAHT, UHPEEUH. And it shows where there are capital letters, where you're supposed to put emphasis on the word. And so we can encourage them that if there are words that they're actually stressed about and feel like they're going to trip over, when you psych yourself out, your brain actually plays against you. And so we want to make sure that they have more confidence in approaching that word. And so teaching them how to do phonetic spelling of that word and putting it on that flashcard for them will be so helpful for them. And it'll just glide on rather than have them stuck and worried about the pronunciation. And so that it can be applicable long term. It doesn't have to be about their speech. And so phonetic spelling actually really helps. And so mirror exercises is another exercise we can teach, and we can actually maybe even get mirrors here in the center if we wanted to be able to show them practicing in their mirror and showing how their mouth is actually forming the words physically can show how to better coach them to pronunciate and articulate their words better. So I know that when I was younger, I used to talk out the side of my mouth, but I used to do mirror exercises so that I was able to form my words well and change the way that I would speak so that I would speak more clearly and efficiently. And here I have this beautiful picture of Barack Obama looking in the mirror. He may have been practicing a speech, but or may looking at himself, which we can't blame him for. And so last we could do breathing exercises. Like I said, breathing is really the most important step, and I really don't want to skip over that because literally the voice comes from the breath that you take, and so breathing can go wrong in so many ways. Breathing starts with the diaphragm, and so if you have too much chest and chest movement and fluctuation when you're breathing, that's a problem because you're not actually using the fullness of your lungs, and you're not practicing breathing well, which is diaphragmatic breathing. And so you want to breathe through your belly, and it actually comes with practice. And so if you have to practice it yourself as a coach before you teach it to students, it actually, I can teach you how to do so. You can lay on your back and you'll watch the way that your body rises and falls. And so if you feel most movement coming up and down when you take inhale and exhale, that's a problem. You want to move it to the belly. And so you'll want to see your belly go up and down. And when I was singing back in choir days, they said that was the time that you wanted to be fat, is because you wanted to fill as much air into your lungs as possible. And so diaphragmatic breathing was a practice that we did often. And so do's definitely teach diaphragmatic breathing exercises with them, practice it with them, and even do it yourself as we continue to be communicators. And then, so diaphragmatic practices are the first that I would say is a practice that we could teach. And another is the snake exercise, which is you take in a deep breath on a 2 count. So it's 1, 2, and then you hold it, and then you exhale with the S sound, like so you're feeling all the air be removed from your lungs. And then you can teach them how to add fluctuation to their breathing by putting emphasis on other parts of this noise. And so we can try like 1, 2, and then hold it, and then go tss, 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 tss. So it teaches them how to fully use their lungs better. And when you take that inhale, if you notice that taking a deep breath through the chest, that's wrong. Have them start over. You want to take it from the belly and teach good practice for that. And so here are my references, and I hope that these applicable exercises are useful for your appointments and continuing to be communication majors or studying communication for life and applying it to your home, career, wherever you're going to go. And hopefully you'll be able to use your breathing better, pronunciate better, articulate better, and have better tone so that people will understand what you're saying and respect you in whatever capacity you need to be respected. Thank you for your time.